good?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Great, starting now. Since Da Vinci mapped the image of the body in his image of the Vitruvian Man, Western art has embraced abstract ideals of perfection defined by exclusion as art evolved images and sculptures depicting the hypermasculine, able-bodied man subsumed representation and replaced the cultural conception of the body itself. The deception of this perfection was countered with later movements obsession with brokenness and recovery. From Mishima in Japan and the works of Frida Kahlo, while art used to represent a perfect world, it now reflected a desire for those new types of meanings we can find in our very imperfect world, and for recovering that lost sense of wholeness from the world we idealize. But those things broken and queer are no longer the center of artistic creation. Fixations with brokenness are now rewritten to be narratives of recovery. The object was broken, and through its recovery, it became a liberal subject. This aesthetic shift reflects a broader stratification of life ushered in with post-Fordist capitalism. Capital no longer produces goods to fill desires. The function of postmodern capital is to channel and commodify desire itself. As conventional knowledge goes, advertisement does not exist to fill needs, but rather to tell someone what their needs should be. The resolution is informed by this process of libidinal capture. The debate community responded to the Trump presidency by overinvesting in molar representation, sustaining the state apparatus, reifying fascistic desires by ignoring the ways representation is manipulated by neoliberalism. Rather than focus on our relationship to the political situation at hand, we reinvest in political and academic spheres that have constituted the liberal complicity of the past. In the face of fascism and post-Fordist capitalism, the question of political resistance becomes a question of survival, and our desire for political representation is inevitably warped into the reinstitutions of the oppressive structures we demand liberation from. The only solution is to rechannel our desire for liberation to something else entirely. The affirmative provides a rubric for non-representational, molecular political desires. Power must no longer ask how to break populations into subjects, but ask populations to desire their own subjection. Liberal criticisms of executive authority are merely a circuit of microfascism that constitute our political realities, and the only solution is to change our own relationship with the very concept of political life, the New 17. Without recognizing fascism's internalization within each and every one of us through neo-imperial white supremacist architectures and mini-fascist authoritarian inside of each of us, a mini Donald J. Trump, our struggle must include ourselves. Movements are consistently faltering in their idealized identity. Politics power within us seeps within us on a molecular level before it comes vertically organized at the microstat of party politics and capitalist nation states. But the fault isn't when we didn't understand why we were an integral part of the problem. We failed. Why? Because social movements and theories, histories have proven that precludes the necessity of breaking out of this loop of our engagement with non-hegemonic, non-hierarchical forms of organizing, doing away with the illusion that we're capable of saving everyone at once. Fascism produces repression and order in the molecular levels of schools. It's easy to protest against the state and corporations, but it's more difficult to recognize that we've reaffirmed the same repressive powers in our causal interaction. Fascism reflects daily lives, laying the foundation for death-oriented machines to find a welcome among massive fascism and shaping the microforces which produces desire, gives rise to their own repression. It's too easy to be anti-fascist on a molar level, not even see the fascists you sustain with molecules, both personal and collective. We are not governed by institutions of the state, but rather we all govern each other, reproduce a complex web of capillary relations of power. The desire for one's own subjectivity or microfascism is combined with bulk personal and neoliberal health-based data collection to engage in a process that renders bodies unproductive and shapes subjectivities to the demands of neoliberalism. Through the medical gaze, neoliberalism forces a visible accountability onto its regime of truth. We must refigure the facial machine of recognition by disrupting the neoliberal subjectivities shaped by mass surveillance. Bayless 09. Efforts to eliminate disability produce a form of subjugation. The effort to narrate deviations that attempt to bring unruliness under control. Subsystems objectification assume an object of disability which can be understood through the way the object is interpreted. Narratives of broken bodies all assume a univocality within the discourses of medical models that try to control unruly bodies seeks to interpretosis. Significance and interpretosis are the two diseases of the earth. Regimes of truth have designated the disabled body as something static. The classifications of the WHO fix a body which creates a disabled body is visible. Here, interpretosis creates a content through its forms of expression, constructing and disciplining the brain constitutes bodies and installs an abstract machine diagnosis which pathologizes invisible differences made visible through expression. Subjection leads to subjectification. The body inscribed as disabled becomes disabled and acted through a process such as facialization. The various forms of normalization consist in making him or her moving towards a supposed ideal. The order world of disability is accomplished and interpreted through normalizing judgment and examination. Subjectification creates the child as disabled, defining through facialization, and the mind confirms the power of the dominant group by placing it at its center as a norm. Surveillance is a technology that has made discipline go digital. The normalization of metadata analysis and predictive algorithms ensure the scripting of debility along violent lines. Anders 13. Power is relational, centered in the docile body experiences of persons with disabilities and their interactions with able bodies. able-bodied people internalize images of mainstream fitness ideology shapers to police their body to achieve their pervasive body image internalized by women in the Western world. Surveillance results in exclusion. Power works to subjugate and produce normalized bodies and protected bodies. Individuals and internalize the messages regarding their normal body police themselves to conform. Individuals with disabilities, their everyday encounters are imbued with surveillance. The total body is healed, excluding deviance. Not only were the individuals with disabilities aware they were being watched by the able-bodied society, but they were also watching and judging each other. Surveillance and data collection are part and parcel with the systems that neoliberalism uses to weaponize structuralist accounts of subjectivity against those troped as disabled. This modernist construction of identity forces disability into a violent binary that reifies neoliberal tropes, solidifies the medical industrial complex. Refusing the epistemic capture of the state by rejecting the formulation of macro-political subjectivity is key. Part 11. What I'm proposing is an intervention of the binary production of disabled versus enabled that drives disability studies and disability rights activism, attachments to difference, reify an exceptionalism that only privileged bodies can occupy. The political agenda disavows pathologies less relevant than a critique of liberal eugenics propagated by the medical industrial complex of debility is understood to be endemic to disenfranchised communities because financialization produces data stability. Debility is profitable to capitalism, but so is it a demand to recover the affect. Turn signals contestation over sites of trouble. The surveillance of affect regulates good and bad subjects and possible and impossible body capacities. Hence, affect entails a dissolution of the stable contours of the organic body. Broader understanding these capacity and debility entails theorizing broader techniques of social controls. Intentions have been mapped out to shift from normal to abnormal to variegation from discrete sites of punishment to preemptive securitization. We think disability in terms of control society is a binary categorization parallels to neoliberal constructions. There's no adequately able body anymore. There are gradations of capacity. Bodies are surveilled through affective tendencies, through probabilities, risk, and prognosis. Health insurance, state benefits, among other feedback loops into the profitability of debility. Non-anthropomorphic conception of the human reinstitutes language as it captures the intensity of the bodily capacities and event of bodily assemblages rather than signification. Our politics are continually reproducing the exceptionalism of human bodies are grieved but genital subject through wounded attachments. How would our political landscape transform with actively decentered reproduction and proliferation of the grieving subject? The scholarly imposition of the affirmative is a politics of refusal, dwelling in brokenness, and refusing the herald of the subjectivity challenges logics of elimination at the level of desire. Our decision to educate and to be educated or praxis into themselves, refusing to stride our relationship to knowledge is a prerequisite to radical political change. Halverson 13. If we do not seek to fix what has been broken, we resolve to live with brokenness. What is supposed to be repaired is irreparable. The only thing we could do is tear this shit down completely and build something new. The undercommons do not come to pay their debts. Black people, indigenous people, and queers and poor people, we cannot be satisfied with recognition generated by the very system that denies that anything was ever broken that we deserve to be broken. We refuse to ask for recognition. We cannot say what new structures will replace the ones we live with, because once we have torn shit down, we will see and feel a new sense of becoming. And where the wild things are, Max feels to make the wild things happy, to save them. It's less important that he recognized in the end in something that they were the rejected and lost subjects of the world. He is now able to set sails for another place, molten hardening by a gesture to a wild place that continually reproduces its own unregulated wildness, a cult of disorder and jazz, improvisation and noise. And we are called to the beyond the beyond. We have to give ourselves over to a certain kind of craziness. Phenomenal will be crazy for him not to take this stance in the world that had assigned him the role of the unreal, the primitive, and the wild. To bring colonization, one does not speak true to the power. One has to inhibit the crazy, nonsensical ranting and language of the other, who has been rendered a non-entity by indeed blackness. To be in the space abandoned by colonialism, the path to the wild is paved with refusal. The ballot box, you only get to check yes or no, so you must refuse the choice as offered. To refuse to call to others as order, to refuse interpolation. We allow dissonance to continue. We enter a classroom, we refuse to call it order. We are allowing study to continue. Study that proceeds or call and will continue after we let the undercommons is not a rel where we rebel and create critique. The undercommons is always here. Our goal is to refuse the world, and logic that stages refusal is inactivity. Refuse to shape the noise into music. Neoliberalism has commodified desire, shaping our conceptions of how we should act and feel. Norms grounded in rationality reinforce idealized images of the body, making neoliberal self-governments and ableist violence inevitable. The debate space is key for the creation of new subjectivities. Literature 16. Affects are mobilized by economic and cultural focuses of idealized images of the body, shape affects in response to demanding public sphere, increasingly made to do work on ourselves as material, labor, knowledge, information, communication, emotional reproduction becomes the site through which we constitute our subjectivities. Too often there is an emphasis in reason, rationality, and the linguistic hallucinatory position of the body is one full of affective potential, yet stifled by strict cultural codes. The reorganization of desire explained in part through technologically embedded global world unwritten rules that pervade are coded in limiting ways. Ready for cross.
Why vote F? Why can't the judge just refuse the F? And that could be like a form of politics or refusal.
Well, the affirmative provides a way for us to reconcile the way that neoliberalism shapes our subjectivities now and creates like these violences and microfascism that are innately inevitable. And like obviously in the era of Trump, like we have to resist, right? It's just a question of what resistance strategies will be effective. And because debate is
So rather than resist Trump, you just kind of resist within ourselves.
Well, we think we should resist the resolutional call to reconciliation that necessarily ties us back into the medical industrial complex through the notion of recovery, which we say reinvigorates ableist norms within societies.
Okay, so the resolution is very clearly calling for a reduction of governmental power, and it's like any form. It doesn't necessarily mean that like we have to like save the government. It's just like getting rid of the power. Why is this like a call to sort of reify that the government exists, or why is it called to save the government? Like it's very clearly just a reduction of power. Where is this second part of the resolution, or the second part of your interpretation coming from?
Well, like basically the idea that we can engage in reforms that will have meaningful effects on like the way that violences are enacted in the status quo is like liberalism, and the liberalism that we critique, because unless we understand that power does not just operate on a top-down level, it's not just the level of the executive doing bad things, but rather power operates on an interpersonal level, then we can't solve for violences that occur interpersonally and also like violences of microfascism.
Your Renews evidence says that rather than states and governments governing us, it's rather we govern ourselves. So does that mean that the affirmative has to mean that everybody engages with the politics of refusal? Or, I mean, like,
We say that it can be individualistic or like, you know.
so if it's individualistic, is it possible that other people don't engage in such, therefore that you wouldn't be able to solve all of, you wouldn't be able to solve?
We don't need everybody to do it to solve for our impacts.
So why, does refusing the resolution, is that the only way in order to recognize that we have different subjects, or we are recognize a different form of subjectivity? Why is it that the resolution is the only way in order to actually, never mind. So why is debate key in order to disrupt the sort of neoliberal idea?
So debate is actually a process of subject formation. You can look at our last card. Communication actually like leads, and communication activities are all like feed into that process of subject formation. So by presenting alternatives to form new subjectivities that are not defined by the terms of neoliberalism and ableist violence, we have solvency basically in round.
Okay, cool.
Are you taking prep time?
No, it's set.
I was just trying to attach the doc.
You don't mind if I open the door?
Go ahead.
Draft. Thanks.
You know, it says workstation capacity 20. I think the workstation capacity for this room is maybe 4.
The most difficult desks to flow on I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Okay, it's too often the case.
Everyone good?
Cool. TR!
our interpretation of the affirmative must defend a hypothetical enactment of a topical plan most predictable agent and verb indicates a debate about hypothetical government action. Erickson 3, the topic contains an agent doing the act that the U.S. should adopt a policy. The agent is the subject should urge his action, should adopt means to put a policy into action through governmental means. A specification of direction or limitation of the action desired. The entire debate is about whether something ought to occur. External executive authorities, authority from Article 2 or congressional delegation. GPO 16 categories of executive power with the Constitution confers Article 2 powers of Congress, confer upon the President powers of Congress, confers upon agencies powers to observe duty to enforce ministerial duties. Statutory implies limitations. Thomas 11 statutories define this role pertaining to legislation or legislative created courts means judicial blacks law. 95 what is judicial pertaining to a court of justice for judicial determination. Restrictions must involve outright prohibition, not mere consequences. Colico 94 the court held restrict referred only to outright prohibition, mere consequences, not equal prohibition. Violation the F doesn't define a statutory or judicial restriction of executive authority in one of the topic areas. There's two impacts. First is fairness. It's the only intrinsic impact. Both teams are here to win, which means there's inherent value to competition. The resolution is key because it provides a limited stasis and defines affirmative and negative ground well in advance. Anything else structurally favors the affirmative and lets them cherry pick which parts of the resolution they engage, leaving the neg with only concessionary ground. Second is clash expanded limits, decreased cash to kills neg ground by not defining a clear actor or mechanism while retaining traditional competition standards like permanent class. Clash is key to rigorously testing the affirmative through nuanced argumentation and in-depth understanding of arguments. It maximizes the benefits of political strategy by teaching us how to be more persuasive activists. The adversarial nature of debate makes it unique through nuanced engagement over opposing viewpoints. Expanded limits causes confirmation bias and mutual ignorance. In 17, collective deliberation is an adversarial debate. Put emphasis in discussion. Opposition of point of view occupies a secondary place. Open and idea criticism constructs the best means of testing validity. A decision is more likely to be high quality if proposal for action, but submitted criticism did not guarantee the voters in proper consideration who claim favorable epistemic effects of opposing opposition, thus being encouraged not merely permitted to check confirmation bias expression not significant to understand that arguments are considered them objective. We cannot expect gathering of diverse points of view will spontaneously produce clash to be opposed to opinion. Contested is necessary. The one take into consideration open explicit clash is neither the natural state nor so possible condition. The task of mutually addressing is hard of the space of opinions and fragmented people tend disproportionately to be in contact with people who share their political opinions. Adversarial debate is restrictive. We cannot discount the values of cognitive simplicity no matter how much disagreement or many people will have to live under a decision they do not support the majority. We're forced to see the reason of supporting the other side. The probability of being confronted with opposing points matters. It makes one's thoughts more careful. The dimensionality undermines the coherence of argument. Deliberative debate should focus on specific themes. The anti-normativity case. The F is right. Academia is at a critical crossroads in the universities competing in metamorphosis into a corporation, but the false choice between institutionalization and anti-discourse results in narcissistic anti-normative bias, unable to contest cybernetic mastery. Wigan 16A have defended institutionalization with political project and critical object of study, not because they love complicity, because being in the university but not of it has always seemed self-serving. There was no way to critique the university without affirming it from debates about neoliberal university, USFIR distrust of the university.